The Roman Empire dominated the ancient world, covering vast swathes of land and incorporating many different cultures. It left behind a legacy that forms the very foundation of Western civilization. For more than 1,000 years, the Roman Empire ruled the ancient and later the medieval world. It was a cosmopolitan and multicultural state, encompassing a vast range of territories, ethnicities, and cultures. At its peak in the 2nd century AD, the Roman Empire stretched from Britain and Spain in the west to Egypt and Mesopotamia in the east. Within these borders lay numerous cities, with Rome as the largest and most important. These cities were vibrant centers of culture, religion, art, and trade, all connected by a sophisticated network of roads, rivers, and sea routes. The Roman legions stood as the backbone of this great empire, defending its vast borders and keeping enemies at bay, until the eventual fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century. Yet the so-called fall of Rome did not mark the true end of the empire. In the east, Constantinople rose as the new capital, continuing as the seat of Roman emperors and the heart of imperial power for another 1,000 years, until it ultimately fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453. The Roman Empire itself emerged from the ashes of civil war. It was established after the violent collapse of the Roman Republic. From its modest beginnings on the Italian peninsula, the Republic had risen to control the Mediterranean, defeating Carthage and subduing the Hellenistic states in the east. But the very success of the Republic sowed the seeds of its own destruction. Its territorial expansion and the growing strength of its armies led to the rise of powerful military leaders. The ambitions of men like Sulla, Pompey the Great, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and ultimately Octavian, better known as Augustus, plunged the Republic into a series of brutal civil wars. These conflicts shattered the authority of the Roman Senate and cleared the way for the creation of the Roman Empire. Octavian, the adopted son of Julius Caesar, emerged as the victor after defeating his last rivals, Mark Antony and Cleopatra, at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. With the help of his close ally Agrippa, Octavian consolidated his power. In 27 BCE, the Senate granted him the title of Princeps, or the first citizen. More significantly, he was proclaimed Augustus, meaning the illustrious one. Although Augustus never officially called himself a monarch, he held supreme authority over both the government and the military. For a time, traditional power holders like the Senate retained some influence and were able to rein in emperors, as seen in the cases of Caligula and Nero. But as the empire expanded, senatorial power diminished, and the emperors grew ever stronger. Under Augustus and his successors, the Roman Empire entered a period of peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana. For 2 centuries, this golden era brought stability and growth to the empire and its people. The population swelled, reaching as high as 130 million by the mid-2nd century, more than a quarter of the world's population. To meet the demands of this expanding populace, the empire broadened its borders and established long-distance trade with India and China. Luxuries like cinnamon, ivory, pepper, and silk became common in Roman cities. Emperors and wealthy elites staged extravagant public events, from chariot races in massive stadiums to gladiator fights and wild animal hunts in grand amphitheaters. The Roman Empire was, in many ways, an empire of cities. Rome itself was the crown jewel, the largest city in the ancient world, with a population nearing 1 million. This number would not be surpassed in Europe until London in the 19th century. Rome served as the political and cultural nucleus of the empire, home to awe-inspiring structures like the Colosseum, the Forum, and the Imperial Palace. Yet Rome was not alone in its grandeur. Cities in the eastern Mediterranean, such as Alexandria and Antioch, had flourished long before Rome and continued to thrive under imperial rule. They remained vital cultural and commercial hubs. All of these cities benefited from Roman control of the Mediterranean, which the empire proudly called Mare Nostrum, our sea. In time, a new city would rise to rival Rome, Constantinople, the empire's eastern capital. By the 3rd century, however, Rome's dominance had begun to shift. Though it retained symbolic importance, it was no longer the sole imperial capital. The instability of the so-called 3rd century crisis forced emperors to remain near the empire's frontiers. Wherever the emperor traveled, his court followed. Thus, new centers of power emerged. Cities like Trier in the west and Antioch in the east, becoming temporary imperial capitals in their own right.